Think about the most remarkable pictures of love in Scripture. Maybe you're thinking about the story of the prodigal son or the book of Ruth or perhaps the cross. All good examples of love. The cross is clearly the greatest example of the extreme to which God will go to show his love for humanity, the redemption of creation. What we're probably not thinking about is Judas Iscariot. Now hold on, hear me out. The Gospels all make it clear that Judas chooses to betray Jesus. The motive for this isn't so clear, but his intent and forethought are. Judas determines that he will betray Jesus. He secures payment for that betrayal. He arranges the time and the place for the betrayal. He even uses his friendship and proximity to Jesus as the signal for Jesus' arrest. All of this may seem like a very bleak picture of love, but bear with me for just a minute. We're getting there. In John chapter 13, we read this. During supper, when the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going back to God, rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, do you wash my feet?" Jesus answered him, "What I am doing you do not understand now, but afterward you will understand." Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "The one who is bathed does not need to wash except for his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not every one of you." For he knew who was to betray him. That was why he said, "Not all of you are clean." He knew, I'm repeating here, who would betray him. The other Gospels also make note that Judas shares in the supper that Jesus and the disciples partake in. He sits around the table with them. Jesus serves Judas just as much as he serves the other disciples, knowing that Judas is going to betray him in just a few hours' time. In fact, has already chosen to betray him. This is a picture of love. It is, in fact, Jesus applying his own teaching, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. It's a difficult teaching. Love my enemies? What does that look like? For most of us, we've decided to forego loving our enemies and we just avoid them altogether. I think about the admonishment of Thumper's mother in the movie Bambi. If you can't say anything nice, don't say nothing at all. Our response to this teaching is often the same principle applied to our actions instead of our words. If I can't do something nice, I won't do nothing at all. That's not what Jesus is calling us to when he tells us to love our enemies. Jesus doesn't avoid his enemy. Judas, who has set himself against Jesus, is included. He's included at the table. He's included in Jesus' act of service towards the disciples. Jesus washes his feet, knowing full well that Judas will betray him. We are called to love people in this way. Inclusion. We are called to invite people into relationship. We are called to serve people even at our own risk. We are called to love people who may never return that love, who may even meet that love with hostility and confrontation. I love you, and I pray today that you would identify those whom you've avoided, those you've placed on your list of enemies, and in as much as it is within your control, include them, serve them, invite them into your meals, love them the way Jesus loved Judas.